Hello, Thrivers, and welcome to this special edition of Knowing Your Network. We're doing it today with Cristina DiGiacomo, and I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of people in life, and sometimes there are these special people that are up to something, that are going to change the world. And Cristina DiGiacomo is one of those people that is near and dear to my heart. I'm completely honored and moved and humbled that she gets to be here with us today. And she's just a rock star. So I'll tell you a little bit about her. She's got 20 years of management experience. 9 of those years she's had taken her practice and philosophy and her master's degree in organizational change management, and has worked with companies like the New York Times and AMC networks, and is just more than a delightful human being, as somebody who's really committed to bringing functionality and power and communication to the workspace. And that's something that we really love here, and we love to talk about. So I think that's all I'm going to say. And with that said, welcome and thank you for being with us here on this special one. Usually these things are about 20 minutes, but we're going to go as long as it takes today. It's a special edition of Knowing Your Network. So how are you today?
I'm doing well, and thank you, Joe, for saying all those really wonderful, nice things. I very much appreciate it. And I just want to say hi to everyone that's watching. I'm thinking about you, and I'm excited. I'm really just excited to be here.
Very, very, very cool. Excellent. So for those of you who are familiar with the Knowing Your Network format, you all know the next question that I'm going to ask Cristina, which is, what is the problem that you solve?
So people want to have a healthy, productive work life. And a lot of times, and this is pretty universal, but a lot of times people get overwhelmed, they feel anxious, they have a lot on their plate, they're being pulled in a number of different directions. Mm-hmm. And, they just have a really hard time approaching their work in a way that's productive, in a way that's, allows them to just get things done. And when they have these feelings of overwhelm, not only does it impact their work, but when it impacts their work, it impacts the team and it impacts the culture. Yeah. So, right now we have a really big problem with people just wearing a lot of hats and being pulled in a lot of directions. And that's really where I'm zooming in with my work.
Good. And who do you work with?
So I work with the executive that just wants work to be better and wants their teams to work better. So a manager or CEO or executive that's struggling with communications.
Why can't they just do what I tell them? Why can't they just do what I tell them what to do? Why can't they just do it?
Well, there you go. That's a challenge right there. I mean, I think everyone can relate to that that's ever managed a team. Yeah. Why don't they just do what I tell them to do? So let's, figure that out. So exactly, that's a perfect example. And also just in general, focus, like I said, productivity, communications, even morale to some extent, and attention just being pulled in many, many different directions and things not feeling very reliable. Like that sort of nagging feeling in the pit of your stomach that things aren't okay or feeling imbalanced, either with yourself, with your team, with your interaction with your team. So managers and executives and CEOs that care about that kind of a dynamic and fixing that kind of a dynamic is the people that I work with.
Good. And can you give us some examples of some client successes, some people that you've worked with and the results that you've been able to produce with them?
Sure. I have a really great example. So I was working with a chief controller of a financial services firm. And when I first started working with them, they were playing defense a lot, very reactionary working style. They were on 24/7. They had a lot of anxiety. They were constantly just being a lot of demands being put on them, and then just looking at every single demand at the same level, which really they were just constantly in this heightened state of work, 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 and in a grind. I mean, they just never even had time for lunch. There were days that would go by that they just didn't eat. So, I mean, this was like across the board, from work-life balance to working style to management style. And it was really affecting their ability to feel good about what they were doing and how effective they were being.
Yeah.
So we spent about 8 weeks together, and through my signature program, and I taught them some exercises and techniques, but also just educated them using philosophy on how to observe their mind and how to have a sense of detachment and perspective and objectivity about what was going on. And the results were mind-blowing. So I track and measure progress with every single one of my clients. I have a metric system. I have a measurement system. So when we were done, we increased her work-life balance from zero, there was 0 to 80%. Wow. So her feeling like things were in balance, and her scale went from 0 to 8. We increased her ability to delegate to her team from 0 to 75%. So she was able to offload 75% of the tasks that she just kept hanging on to. We reduced the sort of distraction thinking, the circular thinking, from, by 70%. So we were able to get her focused and have a higher level of attention, and then reduce her feelings of negativity. Her anxiety reduced by 65%, and we increased her proactivity by 60%. So, I pulled these numbers specifically for this conversation. And just overall, when we were done, she was calmer. She felt better about her work. She felt more effective. She felt that the relationship that she had with her team, and her key stakeholders was much better, and more, she was just able to get things done, and she felt a lot better. So
it's really amazing. And it's really amazing what can happen when you change your mindset and when you change your view of things, right? When you change the things you think about, the thing, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, right? So that was Wayne Dyer said that. And I love how you can quantify it all, which shows us the level of care that you take with the work, that you did a baseline at the beginning, and then you were able to quantify all these things afterward, and really give us here's not just she felt better, but here are the metrics. Here's what was reported, and here's what we see, right? And I'm sure it was great for her team also, because when a leader doesn't delegate properly or delegate at all, the team feels kind of useless, like they're not producing the result. I've been both on the giving and receiving end of that, where I'm not delegating, or I've worked with somebody. I remember when I was in the military and I was thinking, well, I should have something to do, and I'd be sitting there and I'd see the leaders killing themselves, and I'm like, kids, there's something I can do, right? So either way, it's frustrating for the team. So do you want to say a little bit about that?
So when you don't delegate, the message that you're sending to your team is that you don't think they're capable enough of doing the work. And whether it's explicitly stated or not, that message is very demotivating for people because, you know, they're there to do the work. They're there to grow. They are there to experience things with the work. And if they're not having any sort of experience, or their experience isn't up to the level or standard with which they want to master their environment, then they're just going to be sitting there wondering what they did wrong, if they're good enough, if you think they're good enough. And what's going to happen is their minds are going to spiral out on that idea. You know, and you cannot afford to have that kind of idea or mentality in your team, because let's say you get into a situation where then you really need them to step up. You're going to have to do the work to undo the ideas that they have had about themselves because you haven't been delegating, and you're going to have to build them up before they can hit the ground running.
Wow.
So you are completely doing them and yourself and the work a disservice by not delegating.
No, I totally get that. Totally get that. So usually when we get to this part of the interview, I ask this question, which is, what are you curious about right now? And you and I have been having conversations about this, and given this whole pandemic and everything that's going on, you said something to me that really prompted me to do this special edition interview. And usually this is, we're when we get to this point of the interview, we're about 2 minutes away from finished, right? And what I'd like to do today is, you had this amazing concept that blew my mind, and I want to let you just kind of let her rip and tell us what this is all about. So I'm just going to let you go and you tell us what Looking Forward is all about.
Great. So if I'd like to just take a minute to share my screen, because I put together a presentation for everyone about this.
Awesome.
Okay. So we are in, as everyone is saying, unprecedented times. And we're having this kind of collective human experience, and we are all witnessing people and systems and things at their best, but also maybe not at their best. And it's incumbent on us to be aware not only of what's going on, but start thinking about what are things going to look like afterwards, and as we get through this. So I came up with this idea called Looking Forward. And essentially, the premise started when Governor Cuomo does his daily briefings. I call him the intergalactic savior dad. He is an incredible leader, and I'm a huge fan. And the other day, he said something that resonated with me. He said, we're going to have to start thinking about, the fact that this is going to be over. What did we learn? What should we learn? How has this changed us? How does this transform us? What can we take from this that's positive? Except he has a big problem right now. He can't think about this right now. Obviously he is dealing with a crisis of epic proportions. So I started thinking to myself, well, let him deal with the crisis, but perhaps the business community or, just the community at large can start helping him out and start helping leaders out in thinking and answering these questions. And with that said, I started to have this other idea about just my whole perspective on this situation. This is not game over. It's a do-over. And what I mean by that is we have an opportunity and a responsibility and a duty to start thinking about how this doesn't need to happen again, but also at the same time, start doing things and changing things and doing the work to figure out how to make things better. And there's a fundamental reason for this. It does not matter what line of business you are in, just our entire view of ourselves and the world is going to be different. For better or worse, people will be different because of this experience. But one thing I do know is that our humanity is now being surfaced. And that's actually a really great thing. So we know that people are going to change their opinions of the world and opinions and thoughts about themselves, but we also know that we have tapped into a feeling of humanity that I don't think we've tapped into at least in my lifetime, and maybe even in my parents' lifetime. So if that's the case, then business can change and has a responsibility to change in thinking about how it can change through the lens of people's new attitudes and belief systems. And I believe that successful leaders and successful businesses are going to not only get through this with this in mind, but come out of this and transform with this in mind. So for example, if you're a car brand, are people going to want to receive the same message that you were putting out there before? People's tolerance for maybe being sold to is going to be different. Maybe people are not going to really care about certain materialistic ideas, or maybe they will. But all I know is that people will shift. And I also believe that they're going to get to a more principled place and a place of values because they're starting to understand what's really, truly important. And if you are even in employee engagement and you are not receiving people back into the workforce with this in mind, with knowing that they've been through this experience, you're going to appear tone deaf. And any CEO and leader that does not acknowledge what has happened and has not put in the proper measures to allow people to come back differently is going to fail. And this is my belief. So we need to start talking about how people have changed now. We cannot wait until all of this is over to then lift up our heads and say, okay, what do we do now? There's already ideas and thoughts and maybe even some actionable things that we can start thinking about and processing and putting in place for when we are ready and when we get through this. But we need to start talking about it now. We need to start helping leaders, and every vertical, every discipline needs to start having a point of view of what the new normal is going to be. So I was thinking, well, how can we do this? How can we start talking about this now and looking forward in such a way that's useful and inspiring? And so I'd like to introduce everyone to a new interview series, and it's called Looking Forward. And what I'm attempting to do is to do short interviews with category leaders, thought leaders of all verticals, all disciplines, asking two questions. What are you seeing now? And what are you looking forward to? What is going to change in your perspective? And what I'm hoping this will offer people, whether you are a CEO, an executive, or even rank and file, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're in healthcare, whether you're in government, I want to offer inspiration. I want to offer ideas. I want to offer a way that we can look forward and see a completely new way of working and a new world by offering resources and community. And how this is going to be done, it's going to be video segments. There'll be articles and transcripts available. And this will also exist on LinkedIn and in the social, in social media. Right now, I am looking for people who have a point of view on what's going on now and can think about what could be different, what could be better, what can we look forward to. So if you're interested in being interviewed, I have some contact information, but I really want to end with this idea. We cannot look back. We can't unsee what we've just seen. We can only look forward. So if you're in on this idea, please, please just drop me a line and let's get an interview set up. Let's talk. Thank you.
So amazing, you know, and this is when I heard you talk about this concept for the first time, you know, you were all excited. You called me up and you said, hey, look, and I just was, this is the direction that we have to go in. This is what has to happen. This is what we need to think about. It's really time to look forward. And the whole thing that popped into my mind when you said it is, this is an opportunity to reload, if you will, the business paradigm and how we do business and how we think about time with our families and how we think about schooling and how we think about all of it, because we really got to see the dysfunction of it during this pandemic. And so how do we, and it got, like, the covers got pulled off or the light got turned on and, you know, and everything went scurrying. And it really left us thinking, wow, is this where we are? Is this, how do we, it can't be like this. It really needs to. So it gives us an opportunity, like you said, to really do a complete do-over of the process. Everything from, you know, working from home to the work-life balance to the just how you think about things. And I love that you've been thinking about this for a long time, and that you've got the other thing I wanted to talk about is you've got this book coming out, and I wanted you to tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Thanks, Joe. So Wise Up at Work. So with this book, what I'm trying to do is teach and educate using some fundamental principles to help people manage with calm, navigate obstacles, and lead the way. And it's a book that basically uses some stories and some experiences I've had in teaching with CEOs and executives telling their experiences with my work, but also as a how-to use wisdom as a tool for working better. And I go into just 4 very, very simple practices based on truth, based on how to view your thoughts, how to make better decisions, and also how to act. So it's all well and good to understand how your thoughts work, but you need some guidance on what to do. So I take people through this process of getting more clarity, getting control of their thoughts, making better decisions, and acting accordingly, all using really accessible philosophy and wisdom in order to do that. And there's some really great outcomes that are in this book and some great insights from CEOs who have actually done this work. And I'm excited to launch this. It should be available in Amazon in a couple of weeks. If you're interested in knowing exactly when it's available, and I'll be providing a promotion around it, you can go to wiseupatwork.com, and I hope you enjoy the book.
Awesome. So if you could stop sharing your screen so I could see you a little bit, and that'd be great. Awesome. So you've given us so much today. I don't know how much how to thank you for everything that you've given us today, and this way to think about it. And I will make sure that we put links so that people can get in touch with you. And you've already told us how they can get in touch with you. Is there anything that I should have asked that I didn't ask?
I feel really good about this conversation, and I'm so grateful for you. There's nothing that you could have asked. You were great. You know, you asked whatever needed to be asked, and that was it, and that's all it needs to be.
Good. So I thank you, and I love you, and I thank you, and I thank you for everything that you're doing for the community, the business community at large, and for the world, and for changing the paradigm of thought. And I feel blessed to have had you on the show today. So we'll chat soon.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.